For a couple of minutes, all I did was stare at Pete in shock. I think even my jaw dropped. My mother was awake? Jesus, so many events had happened one after another that it was hard for my mind to wrap around them.
Are you alright?
Pete asked. I blinked several times before I focused my attention on him. The head warrior looked at me with uncertainty. His mouth opened, yet closed as if he wasn't comfortable with what he wanted to say. When I glanced at Fear, he was still looking at me with concern. That immediately snapped me out of my daze, and I looked at Pete with certainty. "I want to talk to her," I said firmly. Gratefully, the head warrior didn't question my earlier reaction, and merely gave me the access code that I assumed connected to my mom.
Here you go.
He said.
There's a room down there if you want some privacy.
He then gestured behind him. I nodded and made my way to the room. I walked inside, though I didn't bother closing the door. There was a lone table by the window with a small laptop on it. I sat down and turned it on. Once the laptop was on, I opened our specific contact browser and uploaded the code. I turned on the option for video imaging and took a deep breath. Within a minute, the image of the woman who gave birth to me appeared.
Hello?
The familiar and welcoming voice of my mother came through. I gasped quietly at how genuine her voice sounded, but I regained my focus. "Hey, Mom," I replied rather timidly.
Oh, honey, it is so good to hear from you.
She exclaimed happily. I laughed briefly. "Same goes for you, Mom. It's been 7 years since I last seen you. I thought you were dead." I trailed off. My mother took on a grim expression as her brown eyes focused on me intently.
I know, dear. Most of the time I was out of it, so even I don't know much of what was done to me. Never mind that. All that matters is that I'm back.
I looked away in shame at her positive outlook, despite the ordeal that she must have been through. "It's my fault, Mom. When we got separated, I should have gone back for you. You wouldn't have suffered so much." My mother then leaned close to the camera as her eyes zeroed in on me.
Now you listen to me, young man. You did not abandon me. If you went after me, then you would have been captured as well. And there was no way in hell that I would have let you fall into the Phantom's hands.
Her eyes then softened as she took on a softer tone.
Honey, you know firsthand the pain that the Phantoms have put people through, starting with our family first of all. Your bastard of a father has put us through enough misery as it is. You and the other Seekers have to stop him and his organization once and for all.
I nodded. "I know, Mom, but things got complicated. You see, I met a girl." That automatically caught my mother's attention, as she leaned even closer to the screen, as if it were possible.
A girl, huh? What's her name? What's she like?
A smile plastered itself on my face as I thought of that special person. Her name's Rachel, and she looks somewhat like you, with brownish black hair and brown eyes. She's an extraordinarily strong-willed woman, and is not afraid of kicking ass. My mother chuckled.
I like her already. So where is she?
The smile was automatically wiped off my face as dark thoughts invaded my mind. The Phantoms have her, Mom. They took control of Seeker HQ, and they're holding several hostages over there, including Rachel. My mother gave me a sympathetic look.
I'm so sorry, John,
she said. My body shook with a barely controlled rage, and my hands formed into fists. I hate this goddamn war. If it weren't for him, then none of this would have happened. We might have been a normal family. My mother pressed a hand against the screen, as if visualizing that it was my face.
I know, honey. I wish that could have been the case, but unfortunately it was not. You have to be strong, John. Your father may be a monster, but you're still half of me. Luckily for you, my half is the dominant one.
She chuckled. I found myself laughing at her attempt of humor. Well, it's no wonder that I'm such a badass, I joked. My mother laughed briefly.
Yes, indeed. But really, sweetie, you'll be faced with many obstacles. However, don't let them stop you from achieving your goal. You will win, son. And you've also got that girl to fight for. From how you described Rachel, it seems that she means the whole lot to you.
More than my own life, I said quietly.
Then use it to fuel your will to stop your father and the Phantoms. As Aina Nin once said, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. The question is whether or not you're willing to go as far as you can in order to save Rachel.
Without hesitation, I answered, I'd do everything in my power just to make sure that she's safe. My mother looked at me with such love that it nearly overwhelmed me.
I'm so proud of you, son. So very proud.
Thanks, Mom, I said as I slightly blushed. Are you in a safe place? She smiled.
Yes. The secret medical team transferred me to some location in England. I'm afraid I can't tell you where exactly, because even I don't know.
Inwardly, I let out a sigh of relief. I'm glad to hear.
I have to go now,
she said regretfully. I know, I replied.
Say hello to Fear for me. I still hate calling him that. However, he has always refused to have me call him by his real name.
I smiled genuinely. Will do, Mom. Take care. She smiled back, and with that, the connection was cut. The chat with my mom left me filled with more hope than before. As short as the conversation was, it was still good to hear her voice again. She was the only stable rock I had, after my father went full-on evil. I got up from the chair and stretched my slightly sore back. It was then that I realized that Fear was standing at the doorway.
John,
He said. I raised an eyebrow in question. What's up? I asked. He shrugged as he stepped inside, and then leaned against the wall.
just wanted to check up on how you're doing. How's your mom?
I turned to face him. She's doing well. She says hi, by the way. Oh, and she also mentioned that she still hates calling you Fear. The assassin's lips curled slightly at the edges.
I'm still going to force everyone to call me that.
Even your girlfriend? I said as I wiggled my eyebrows suggestively. Fear rolled his eyes.
Haha, she's not my girlfriend.
I rested my hand on my hip. Is that so? Then I suppose that you two holding hands on the drive here meant nothing? That automatically made his eyes widen, as I assumed that he didn't expect me to have known that.
She grabbed my hand. I just sat there.
But you didn't slap her hand away, I said. You like her. And then grinned. Fear held his ground.
We're in a war. There's no time for petty things like love. Besides, if I get myself involved in a relationship, then that'd just be one visible weakness that the Phantoms would easily exploit. I wouldn't put Alana in danger purposely.
I raised an eyebrow. So it's Alana now, huh? You're calling her by her real name, yet you refuse to tell her yours? The assassin glared at me.
Shut up.
He replied rather childishly.
I don't go around teasing you about Rachel.
The mention of her name washed off my humorous mood. Fear noticed the abrupt change in my attitude, and struggled for words.
Shit,
Forget it, I replied. It's not like I can avoid any mention of her. Not when our mission is partially revolved around her. I then walked over to the window and stared at the illuminated city. I made a promise that I'd do everything I possibly could to save her, even if it meant sacrificing my own life. I won't let her go through the same torture that has marked me for life. Fear walked to my side.
We'll get her, John. And when we do, we'll make the Phantom bastards pay for everything they've done.
I smirked slightly. Damn right we will. Fear then regarded me with an intense yet soft look.
You really do love her,
he said quietly. I turned my face towards his and nodded. Very much, I replied. Fear continued to look at me for a few minutes.
In that case, I've got your back until the end.
I smiled softly. Thanks, Ricardo. Instead of the usual annoyance at the use of his real name, Fear merely smiled.
Anytime, John,
he replied. I smiled back. So, how are your sisters? I randomly asked. At the mention of them, Fear's smile went larger.
They're good. I talked to them before we left Rome. It's funny. Katerina wants to join the Seekers when she's of age. I don't want her to, though.
I chuckled. She's 16, Fear. She's at the age where you can't actually tell her what to do and expect her to listen. Fear shook his head.
She's still young. She's got her whole life ahead of her. I don't want her to go off joining our war. Not if I can help it.
My eyes softened. She just wants to follow in her big brother's footsteps, I replied. Fear sighed and smiled softly.
Yeah, she does. She always was that way.
I smiled in agreement and turned to face the window. We spent a good while after that just looking out the window in a comfortable silence. Various memories reintroduced themselves in my head, and for once, I welcomed them with open arms. For the first time since this damn war started, I felt at peace and had a sense that things would work out for the best. Someday, this would all be just a distant memory.